My name is Yannick Glemarec. I'm the Assistant Secretary General of UN Women in charge of policy and program. There is no way we are ever to implement the 17 SDGs in isolation, one by one. The only way we will implement the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development will be through identifying a limited number of integrated initiatives that will enable us to achieve 5, 6, 7, 8 SDGs in a synergetic manner. And UN Women strongly believe that a gender lens enables you to identify a number of solutions to seemingly intractable sustainable development challenge. And notably, there are some huge co-development benefits between gender equality and climate action for sustainable development. A few years ago, whenever I will come with a sentence with gender and climate change and scaling up action, people will be a bit puzzled. And as you can see with the COP22, it seems that this message has gotten across. And I would like to give a couple of examples of this co-benefits that we can leverage to create win-win-win options. If you take, for example, the gender gap in agriculture, if we were to address the gender gap in terms of access to finance, access to land, access to information, access to market, we could increase the productivity of women farmers by up to 20% in sub-Saharan Africa, according to FAO. This will enable us to have a dramatic impact in terms of SDG 1, poverty reduction, SDG 2, food security, SDG 3 and 4, because women farmers tend to reinvest 40% more of their income in the health and education of their families, SDG 5, of course, women empowerment, SDG 16, a woman farmer who can feed, educate and clothe her kids will also be able to make sure that they do not join violent extremist groups, and SDG 13, climate change. The leveraging co-benefits between gender equality and climate action is important for both mitigation and attenuation. When you look at what it takes to accelerate the adoption of climate-smart agriculture, it's exactly what it takes to address the gender gap in agriculture. You need an access to secured land tenure. Planting a tree, it's an investment over a period of 5 to 7 years. Nobody will do such an investment if you do not have secure land tenure. Climate change will oblige us to diversify our agricultural farming systems, and depending on the seasonal forecast, to go from one kind of crop or another kind of crop. So access to information will be key. Increase the access of women farmers to information, you will accelerate the adoption of climate-smart agriculture. Today, women farmers account for 50% of the agricultural production in most countries. They receive only 5% of the agricultural extension services. And so you can see the huge potentials that we have if we make sure that our agricultural extension services benefits women as much as men. We know that one of the reasons why it's not the case is that because it's often male agricultural agent speaking to male farmers, because often the definition of a farmer is ownership of land. And so it's a vicious cycle. Now, through secure land tenure, we can start breaking that vicious cycle, but we have also a lot of new information and communication technologies that could enable us, for example, to take a 5-minute video of a woman farmer that will explain why she went for that culture, what was the result for her in the local language, and start sharing local knowledge in a way that everybody can understand. So it's great in terms of addressing the gender gap. It's great in terms of climate-smart agriculture. Same thing for finance. Climate-smart agriculture will enable you to have a lot of upfront capital investment, be an irrigation system or trees. And so if you can increase the access of women to finance, you will increase our capacity to adopt climate-smart agriculture. And markets, one of the best adaptations to climate change is, as I say, to diversify your production. For that, you need to have access to new markets. So doesn't matter whether you come from a perspective of gender equality when it comes to addressing the gender gap, or when you come from a perspective of adoption of climate smart agriculture, it's the same thing. The co-benefits between gender equality and climate smart agriculture are huge. And it's true also in terms of mitigation. If you increase the productivity of women, you intensify agriculture, you reduce the footprint. Now, I don't want to abuse the patience of your YouTube viewers, but we could say exactly the same for energy or for natural disasters. In every single of the topics discussed during the COP, if you take a gender lens, you identify suddenly solutions that can multiply the impact and generate win-win-wins. That means basically not only a climate-reliant society, but also a fairer and more equitable society. The adaptation will basically put a huge premium on information. One of the impacts of climate change will be a polarward shift of ecosystem boundaries. So basically, the type of opportunities you had, now it's your neighbors in the south or your neighbors in the north that have them. And the type of opportunities they used to have, you are now the one who have them. And therefore, you need to access knowledge in order to be able to adapt to the impact, mitigate the impact, and capitalize on whatever opportunity is possible. One of the main levers that we have to address climate change is providing quality information to everybody. If you look at the Paris Agreement, for me, one of the main breakthrough of the Paris Agreement is that we recognize that we will not address climate change at scale unless it's become the business of everybody. Individual, civil society, private sector, local governments, and national governments. And so one of the recommendations of the Paris Agreement is to call on all organizations to basically support capacity development of different type of partnership. And UN Women is taking this call very seriously. And so, for example, we have just developed a manual on how to leverage co-benefits between gender equality and climate action for sustainable development. Why it's so important, what kind of co-benefits are we speaking about, and how can you mainstream the gender dimension into climate action in order to leverage its co-benefits. And our objective is to shift from, for example, a gender responsive implementation of a project where gender comes at the very end under environmental and social safeguards, and often we're speaking about ensuring that 50% of the participants are women, toward an implementation of gendered action, where right from the beginning you look at basically what will be the gender differentiated impact of your activities, and you select your project strategy, you select your activities to make sure that they benefit women as much as men. And ultimately it's for the benefit of everybody, because you're speaking about optimizing impact. So shifting from gender responsive implementation to implementation of ungendered action. And so we piloted this manual last Saturday with 50-60 representatives from the civil societies. We have a web page that can be accessed by everybody who will be interested in accessing the manual, but also the project documents developed by UN Women, the methodologies, the peer-reviewed papers, etc. One of the requests we have been given is to try to organize a training of trainers, and we are currently exploring what could be our options to do so.